Welcome back to the Ecom Growth Show. I am your host, Dane Coleman, and with me I've got Kusha Karvandi from Kazam. And Kazam is an AI PPC management tool that is geared towards beginners, but if you have experience, there's a lot of customizability that you can add into that. So Kusha, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, give us a little bit of your backstory, how you got to this point where you are today.
Sure, yeah. I've been selling on Amazon for almost a decade. Started really kind of part-time with it, really by accident. This is back when Shopify was not that big, and FBA just made a lot of sense because Amazon did a lot of the heavy lifting for you. And we started a business, my wife and I, part-time, and that, slowly became a full-time business. And then we scaled that and exited that company. And then, in the last 5 years, we've actually exited two other brands, two other companies as well. So we sold a total of three so far and working on our fourth exit now. And Kazam was, something that really kind of came about in the last couple years as a need to build Amazon advertising tool that could do a lot of the things that I was doing manually, running all of our ads, in a more optimized and automated fashion, but also to do a couple other things. One of which was to incorporate AI, which, we could see this huge opportunity to utilize the power of
Sure.
AI to make better decisions and faster decisions. And also to, one thing we saw missing in the marketplace was a PPC software that would take your organic rankings into account. Because one thing that, just like any other Amazon seller, we were feeling the squeeze and the pressure by all the Amazon fees. The profitability has slowly over time just gone down and down and down.
Sure.
We looked at it and we said, okay, how can we make this advertising work more efficiently so that we're not paying Amazon twice? In some cases, of course, if you want to have multiple placements on Amazon, if you want to have multiple exposure, then maybe it is beneficial to show up in the sponsor result and the organic result in the same section if you're already showing up high on the page. But for most sellers, and especially for many keywords, that may not be necessary. And then you end up paying Amazon twice. You're paying them for the referral
Right.
fee on top of the PPC costs. And as your category gets more competitive, those PPC costs get higher and it gets more expensive. So with Kazam, what we did integral to the software is that it takes your organic rankings into account. So as your product starts to rank and climb onto the top of page one, it starts to optimize your bid costs and reduce those bids. So you're not paying as much for those keywords that you're already ranking organically for.
Interesting. Okay, so it sounds like you started Kazam to resolve your own problems with managing PPC, yeah?
Exactly. Yeah, it was really to,
Yeah.
help manage our business better.
Yeah. I think that that's where the best tools come from is when sellers have some sort of capability, knowledge, whatever you want to call it, experience in making something, making some sort of tool that can help them, or just have the foresight to create it and know where to look and what to look for. So I
Hmm.
think those are the best tools. That's exactly where Managed by Stats came from, which that's a not quite a it's a decade old tool now for Amazon sellers, and that was in the days when you had to do everything with spreadsheets
Yep,
and try and
exactly.
figure it out yourself. Okay, so let I want to go into your tactics and because I feel that most softwares for PPC that the builders of that build what they believe are the correct ways to manage PPC into those tools, into those
Hmm.
AI, into the AI even. They have, I wouldn't say preconceived ideas, but just this is what they know has worked for them and their
Hmm.
brands, and so they sort of incorporate that into things. But before we or I should say, once we've gone through a bit of that, I also want to know. Actually, why don't we start with what is your philosophy on ads? How do you manage them? What do there's lots of different types and ways to run ads. And
Hmm.
full disclosure, I'm not an ads guy. Okay.
Hmm.
So if I ask a stupid question, just go ahead and call me out on it.
Yeah, no worries.
But what's your philosophy on running ads? Let's say I'm launching a new product. It's a
Mhm.
$20 product. I've got a decent margin. How would you do that?
Yeah, I mean, typically sponsored products is always going to be your most profitable because the
Okay.
buyer intent with sponsored products is so much better and the conversion is so much better. Your sponsored brands, your sponsored display, those generally are not going to convert as well. But for an established brand, or if you're trying to scale your brand, those are all, good complementary ad types to incorporate. But the
Hmm.
first thing I would start with is just basic sponsored products, PPC ads, especially top of search placement. I would be focusing on those. And especially if you have a new product, you have that honeymoon period. Amazon gives you a little bit of favorability because they don't really know what keywords you're most relevant for yet. So they're, you might see like a number one new release badge, almost looks like a bestseller badge. You might see that on your
Hmm.
product if it does very well out of the gates in those first 60 days. So definitely, I would recommend doing multiple things. PPC would be one of them. You may also want to run Google Ads. You may also want to do TikTok. Multiple
Sure.
traffic
Okay.
sources, especially sending different social signals to Amazon, can be really valuable because
Yeah. So
Amazon's
you so
taking
you
all that
would
into account.
you would run off Amazon traffic right from the get-go, huh?
Yeah, yeah, especially if you're
Okay.
trying to run a new product, I would, obviously try to test it beforehand. If you have your own store and if
Hmm.
you've run any D2C ads before, then
Hmm.
you would get some at least a decent idea of how well it might convert if you're running ads to your own product in your own store. But if you're not doing that or don't have experience with that, you could just run it direct to your own store. And I have found that even if it doesn't convert fantastic running from Facebook, Meta or TikTok or Google Ads, it still will give you a little bit of a boost just for the fact that you're sending that external traffic. The
Okay.
PPC ads, you want those to convert. You
Yep.
don't, obviously you don't want to be, running ads to something that doesn't really convert. So if there's something wrong with your optimization, like let's say your price point or your images, or you don't have enough reviews to be competitive, that sort of thing, you want to make sure you get all that stuff in order first. Optimization is key before you launch.
Yeah.
That's how I would start. It's usually how I start with most of my brands. We go full force and try to run different types of ads. But PPC is integral to that process.
Sure. So, okay, let's say, just for the sake of ease of numbers here, let's say I've got $1,000 a month budget for my ads. What percentage would you split between, we're going to assume that I'm going to take the most profitable route here because I don't have an
Hmm.
unlimited budget. What
Yep.
what percentage would you put into Google Ads running traffic from there?
If you only had $1,000, you're talking about a little over $30 a day in budget. I would probably just allocate all of that towards Amazon PPC because it's just not quite enough to do anything meaningful. Like running $5 a day or something on Google Ads is not going to do anything.
Okay.
So if you had a $3,000 budget, then I might say, okay, let's run maybe 1,500 on Amazon ads, maybe 1,000 on Google Ads, maybe 500 on TikTok or something like that.
Okay. Now TikTok Shop, and I don't have experience with TikTok Shop. Oh, that's right. Amazon just announced that you can now do product placement on TikTok direct to Amazon. Is that right?
I think I did see something about that, some partnership with TikTok and Amazon. But TikTok
Yeah.
Shops is a little bit different because TikTok Shops they're buying through TikTok, so they're
Okay.
they're staying within the app. They're not technically buying it from your Amazon product details page or from Amazon. What you would want to do in terms of what I was talking about is running TikTok ads, directing them to your Amazon product details page,
I
just like
got
you
it.
would do with
Okay.
Google Ads.
Okay. Got it. All right, good. So it's just, I understand now. It's just another off Amazon source of traffic. Okay,
Exactly,
cool.
exactly.
So you're basically saying if you've got enough budget, you'd split it 50-50 between, well,
Slightly
50% of
more.
that.
Yeah, slightly more PPC. Amazon PPC is just going to work a little bit better. The other stuff is not going to convert nearly as well. Depends how
Hmm.
competitive it is, but in most cases, I would say Google AdWords is going to be more competitive and a little bit less buyer intent because not everyone who's searching on Google is searching to buy a product or buy your
Right,
product. Someone who's
right.
going on Amazon is looking to buy that product if they're searching
Yeah,
those relevant keywords. So I would say
yeah.
Amazon PPC would be number one. I would allocate at least 60% of the budget towards that and then the remainder towards Google and
Okay.
other platforms like TikTok, maybe
Okay,
Meta. Meta
cool.
is just very expensive. That's the only reason why, unless you have a big budget, I probably wouldn't do a ton of Meta ads because it can just the cost per click can be so expensive that it might
Mm.
be better to test with TikTok shops, especially if you can do something called Spark ads, where you get influencers. I would test getting a lot of different influencers to create content, and then see what kind of traction you get with views and what's called GMV, which is just basically like, gross merchandise value, which is revenue. See,
Hmm.
what kind of GMV these different videos get organically. And then the ones that perform really well, you can ask those influencers for their Spark code, and that allows you to run TikTok ads from your TikTok business manager, from your ads account, and run ads as if it's like coming from their profile. So it'll be a sponsored ad.
Ah,
It'll look more organic because it'll look more
I've
like an
seen
organic post.
those.
It won't look like it's coming from
Yes.
your brand. It'll look like it's coming from them.
Yes.
But
Yep.
yeah, that's a strategy I would recommend. But TikTok requires a lot more creatives, meaning a lot more content testing to get it to
Mm.
work. You can't just, test like 3 videos. You got to probably test like dozens to see what's going to really take off. And
All
some
right.
stuff may
So
just go viral.
yeah, okay. So just to dive in, since this is all on the subject of ads here, just to dive into that, even though this is not necessarily Amazon ads, obviously we are all headed in that direction. When there are those out there that say just put all of your budget on Amazon, and then there are those that say diversify. I'm a fan of diversification, though my money is not where my mouth is because I don't do it. I don't do
Hmm.
ads at all on Amazon.
Hmm.
So, about that though, what kind of videos are you talking about? Because most brand owners are people like me.
Hmm.
Well, I have experience with doing video actually. So let's just say I don't have experience. Are we talking about just whipping out your phone and then doing a video, handheld video, or are we talking about getting other creatives like influencers to do it for you and then using that content, or are we talking about studio quality stuff?
No, yeah, it's all just, it's having the influencers record it themselves. So you basically
Okay.
you reach out to these collaborators, these influencers, and you offer them, for example, let's say you just offer them a free product in exchange for
Sure.
them to post it.
Mm-hmm.
And most smaller influencers will do that. Or especially if they
Yep.
think that they can make money off it, you can offer them commissions. So if they
Yep.
think they're going to make a lot of money off of it, then they'll do that. In some cases, they may want, free product plus a fee to post,
Mm-hmm.
plus maybe commissions. So they may want all of those things, but it depends really on the influencer. But in most cases, that they're going to take either a commission and or a fee, and they're going to create the content themselves. All you do is send them the sample. They're going to create the content, and then you can give them some guidelines or some ideas.
Sure.
And what I generally like to do is look at what's already working. Look at your competition. If your competition's already doing TikTok or TikTok shops, you can look at what they're doing, and you can even reach out to those exact same influencers and say, "Hey, I love this video you did for them. Can you do a similar one for me?" And you can see the thing with
Okay.
TikTok is very transparent. You can see how much, how many views, how many clicks, how much GMV, like how much revenue that those videos are producing. So it's all very
Okay.
transparent. You can see what's already working out there. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. I would just look at what's working. Or at a minimum, you could even just look at TikTok has a lot of tools in their seller center, kind of similar to Amazon Seller Central. They have a seller center
Mm-hmm.
for TikTok business owners. You can look in there and you can see what's working in terms of content. They have a lot of tools, not only when you're looking for collaborators, but you can look at what's working out there in terms of content, like what's trending. And I would just look at
Mm.
trends, like what kind of like weird types of content and camera angles and different styles, what's working best. And that's what I would probably lean towards when giving your influencer instructions on what type of content to produce. I would say, hey, can you make something similar to this style video? TikTok is very weird. I mean, I personally don't use it. I'm not a
Yeah.
TikTok user. I don't go in there and scroll.
Yeah. Me
But
neither. I
it's
doom
very
scroll
weird
in
to
other
me.
places.
Yeah, it's a very weird platform to me. The videos are very different, very short
Mm.
and very very creative. And but they have a lot of creative tools that make it easy. You don't have to have a studio to edit these things. These are all
Yeah. Cool.
kind of done by apps or within the app. They're editing them and splicing them and throwing them together. And but yeah, when you look at TikTok videos, you can start to see kind of a similarity between a lot of these videos, and I would use that as guidance. In
Got
a
it.
lot of cases, the collaborators already kind of know. They already have an idea, especially if they've done. If you look at their profile in TikTok Seller Center, you can see how much revenue they've produced from their profile. from their video
Oh,
content. And
wow.
so, yeah, you can see how much they've done. So you can see, okay, is this someone who's successful? Have they sold a lot with products on TikTok by posting content? And if they have, then they generally have an idea what they're doing. They already know exactly what to look for and what to produce.
Ah, that's cool. Okay, good deal. All right, well, let's get off the subject of TikTok, but it's all ads related. So the point is that if you want to find if you're going to do ads on TikTok, then you need to find an influencer to do the video for you and then be essentially boosting those videos, but running ads using those videos and then sending
Mhm.
that content to your details page on Amazon. All right, cool.
Exactly.
And uh, just a side note for anyone that is unaware, you can find influencers on Levanta.io. So I'm an influencer there, not an influencer. I'm a content creator there. And I really like the platform, and they just got a huge Series A raise. So I have a feeling they're going to be doing a lot more to support their people. So, but this show is not sponsored by them, but I personally support them. All right. So now, what is your strategy? Well, we've gone over that more or less. Tell me, what does Kazam solve? Like, why did you create Kazam? There are plenty of AI tools out there for PPC, but what does Kazam solve? What gap are you filling in the market? And I'll start off by saying, for anyone that wants to try Kazam, it is dead simple. It's dead simple to get started. I like that because if you're a fairly new seller, you don't have to be an ads expert to get help with your ads. So I'll start off by saying that, but I want to know, Kusha, what gap are you filling?
Well, the main thing is I wanted to make a software that was affordable because a lot of these softwares out there, they're very expensive.
Mm,
Most of them have like minimum contracts. You have to sign like a 12-month contract, which I
mm,
personally hate. I hate signing those things because
me
then
too.
a few months into it, you're like, man, this really isn't working for me. But then you're
Yep.
stuck, you're committed. Ours is
Yep.
just month to month. It's very affordable. Our average user is paying like $200 a month to have basically a replacement to a full media buyer. I mean, any media buyer you hire to run your ads, like even a VA, is going to cost you, 1,000 plus
More
a
than that.
month. One,
Yep.
yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4,000 a month to have somebody run those ads. And so this is designed to be a replacement for that, especially since it's supported by AI. And if you want, I can
Mhm.
show you a little demo. Let me pull this up
Yeah,
here.
so this does go. So for anyone that's listening on Spotify or any of the ads podcast platforms, if you go to YouTube and you type in the Ecom Growth Show, you'll be able to find this full video. And where are we at in terms of our time here? 18 minutes. So if you go scroll forward, scrub to 18 minutes, then Kusha is going to give us a little demo of this. Go ahead.
Yeah, so basically, it's like you said, it's designed to be very simple and easy to get started. And so this
Hmm.
is kind of geared towards beginner or intermediate sellers in terms of the interface. But what I'll show you in a
Hmm.
minute is some of the advanced tools for those advanced sellers who have a lot more experience with PPC and they know exactly how they want to optimize or have the system optimize their bids and campaigns. They have full control and full capability to do so. So I'll show you that in a minute. But basically, when you come into your
Cool.
dashboard, you have kind of two different themes here. The first one is quick launch, which is basically your main theme where you're going to go in here, and I'll go through that in a minute, where basically you just go pick the SKU you want the system to create ads for, and you set a few parameters like your minimum, maximum bid, and your target ACoS. And then that's it.
Hmm.
The system will start creating a series of auto and manual campaigns, and it will start to optimize it ongoing. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it'll take off
So,
from there for you. You can even
so you're
also the
saying you
second.
don't even have to do any keyword research.
No, you don't. And I'll show you in a minute here why I highly recommend that because it'll make things much more profitable. Because the system
Okay.
doesn't know, even with the AI, it's not going to know what's most relevant for your product right out of the gates. In
Mm-hmm.
some cases, it can do very well. But if you provide it no information, no input, it might take you at least 30 days for it to really optimize. If the ACoS may be very high in the first week. So I'll show you some recommendations I recommend based on, what information you provide or don't provide. But
Okay.
the other theme here is migrated campaigns. You can migrate your existing campaigns into Kazam as well. So you can, if you wanted to have
Cool.
Kazam manage, and optimize the bid, so you don't have to watch it or manage it manually, you can do that as well. So basically, yeah, you
And
go
how does
into
that
here.
happen? Do they just add a user, or do you just click on learn more and then
Yep,
log
they
in
just
and it just sucks that information in?
yeah, exactly. You just add the campaign, the
Okay.
existing campaign that you wanted to manage, and that's it. And everything's managed at the SKU level. So when I go to the quick launch, it's all managed at the SKU level. So all I do is go to add/edit advertise SKUs.
Mm-hmm.
I would say add here, and then once I've added them, they'll show up here. It'll show which ones are advertised or not advertised. Not advertised means the system hasn't turned on anything yet. So Kazam hasn't turned on the optimizations or ad creation yet. Once I do that, let's say if I go to this as an example, see this advertise button needs to be clicked in order for it to turn on. And then once I click this,
Okay.
it will change to advertise, which will look just like this one here. This one's already, you can see it's grayed out because it's already now advertised. And you can stop it if you want,
Mm-hmm.
but this is turned on. In order to advertise, you have to fill out just a few parameters. These are the only required parameters. Your max budget per day for the SKU, and
Okay.
this is going to be spread across multiple types of campaigns. So I would set that budget a little bit higher because this is not for a single campaign, it's for a multitude of campaigns. And then minimum maximum bid. This is your bid guardrails. I would highly recommend putting those, somewhere close to where you want it to be. Like, don't let it go too high. I've seen some
Yep.
categories where the bids can go to like $30 a click or something crazy. So
Yeah.
you have to be careful not to let Amazon run wild with your budget.
Yeah.
And then you can
Because
set
they
your
don't care
target.
about your budget.
Exactly. You can set your target ROAS here, your target ACOS, and
For
again,
the
the minimum
beginners,
maximum
it's
bid.
return on ad spend.
Yeah, exactly. Which is really kind of the inverse of your ACOS. It's kind of the same thing. A 2x ROAS is like a 50% ACOS, 50%,
Yeah.
advertising cost of sales, kind of the same thing. They're just inverse of each other, but same kind
Yep.
of thing, trying to figure out, basically telling the system, how profitable you need these to be. And then here, these are all optional fields. So this is where somebody who's more advanced or more intermediate and wants to have more control, you have full control here. So this field here, you can enter your own brand name if you want to have branded campaigns. I highly recommend the branded campaigns, especially for new products. Where maybe if you're launching a new listing by itself and it's not a variation off your existing brand and you want people to find it more quickly, you will see more increase in organic rankings for relevant search terms that have your brand name in it. So if you have like your brand name plus your search terms that the user is searching for and they click and buy your product, that is going to give you a boost in rankings for the organic search term by itself as well. So it is good, I think, to include the brand in the beginning, but you don't have to.
Okay.
Competitors as well. You can add your competitors' brand names, which I highly recommend, and the system will create ads targeting those competitors.
Okay,
ASIN
so that's not
targets.
to go look at the competitors and see what they're doing and what their keywords are or
No,
anything
no,
like
this
that.
is
That's
just to
just a
basically
brand.
create ads to target them. Yeah,
Okay,
this
got
is
it.
just to go after those competitor names in your
Yep,
ads
I
because
definitely do
it's
that.
against Amazon's terms of service to include those competitors' brand names or
No,
trademarks
not
in
the
your
brand
back end.
names. No. Yeah, of course. I was referring to kind of the reverse ASIN lookup
Yeah, yeah,
of the
no.
days of old, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. This is not a search tool. This is all of this here is just to give it information to have the AI and the software run and create ads for you based on these. So
Cool.
that's all these are. Yeah. So this here, that's for competitors. ASIN targets is to create these product attributed target campaigns. So it's kind
Okay.
of like a keyword campaign, but instead of targeting keywords, you're targeting certain ASINs. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you have certain ASINs, like either let's say your own ASINs you want to target, if you want to have some kind of defensive campaigns, you can target your own ASINs. And if you've noticed on product
Yep.
details pages, there's a sponsored section on product details pages. So
Yep.
that's where some of those ads would show up, as well
Yep.
as in search results. But you can target your competitors' ASINs as well there if you have specific ASINs you want to put. Keywords, same thing. This is the thing that I've kind of learned over time. I highly recommend inputting information here because most sellers, even a beginner, you've done some level of keyword research in order to launch your product, in order to write
Yeah.
your listing and create your listing. You have some level of research that what, especially what you're most relevant for. And with Cosmo, which is Amazon's AI for search, I think AI is going to be so much more integral to their algorithm for rankings because it's all now
Agreed.
about semantic SEO and about what the buyer intent is. Amazon wants to find the product that matches the buyer intent most accurately. So I
You
think it's
said
very
semantic SEO. I'm not familiar with that term. I think I just by definition of the word semantic, I think I understand what you're saying. But what do you mean by that?
semantic is basically like before it was purely about the A9 algorithm for Amazon's basically search optimization for Amazon organic rankings SEO was
Hmm.
more in the past around who was getting the most clicks and sales for certain keywords. So if you were selling a
Sure,
dog leash, whoever got the most clicks and sales for dog leash was going to be ranked number one for that keyword. And
sure.
now it's more around who Amazon thinks and what the Cosmo AI thinks is most relevant for that customer's buyer intent, especially for more niche products. So if it's like dog leash for large dogs or something like that, something that's more specific, Amazon wants to try to match that buyer, the product to the buyer's actual intent of what they're
So
looking for.
do you, and I could see this definitely happening. Do you think that if you and I had two different dogs, I've got a small dog, you've got a big dog, and
Hmm.
you and I search for the same keyword, do you think our results would be different because we know that Amazon has access to our purchase history? They know what size dog we have and stuff like that.
Exactly,
You think that's
exactly.
where it's going?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. They're
I would
taking
agree.
all that
Yeah,
into account. I mean, they were already kind of doing that geographically.
sure.
Amazon was, not that very recently, not that long ago, they've been basically showing different search results based on your location, especially
Yep.
based on how many like if you don't have enough units at FBA centers around the country,
Right.
like if
Delivery
it's
time.
delivery time. Yeah,
Yeah.
delivery time. It's like Amazon wants to make sure they can get the product fastest to the customer. So they may show a different product at the top of search to another customer on the East Coast if all your
Yeah.
products are at FBA on the West Coast. So it's good to have
Yep.
enough inventory and not too little for that reason from a geographic perspective. But yeah, to your point, it's not just about geographic now. Now it's about history and them kind of analyzing you and creating like almost a customer avatar out of you and figuring out like what's your buyer
Yeah.
intent based on your purchase history.
Yep.
Amazon has so much data on us.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Who was it? Was it Brandon Young? Maybe it was John Elder. I don't remember. Someone just did uh, a a little video on just how much data does Amazon have on, but
Hmm.
it makes sense. I mean, this is for anyone that's running ads to a demographic and making money doing that will spend more money on ads. So it's in the best interest of Meta and TikTok and Amazon and Google for
Hmm.
them to serve up ads only to the people that have the very highest possible percentage of converting. And
Exactly.
they use this data for that. So that makes a lot of sense to me. I think, with the and then even Rufus, like every question that gets asked of Rufus about products and stuff like that is training Rufus on what do people want to know about this product, and that's probably going to go into the search details pages,
Yep. Exactly.
you know. And I think
Exactly.
we're actually starting to see that people like this or that. So we know they're extracting it from the reviews. They're probably going to
Mhm.
start extracting and utilize that information from search as well.
I agree.
Yep.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So
All
this
right.
is that's why I find it very important now for sellers. I highly recommend, at some point I may even make this a required feature to enter some initial keywords because it really helps
Yeah.
things become more profitable. Because sometimes, we do offer a 7-day free trial with our software. But honestly, I feel like in many cases, if you don't provide enough input, it's not really going to be enough to really gauge, is this thing going to explode your profitability or your scale? That's just not going to happen in 7 days with ads. It generally takes time.
Yeah.
I would say it's going to take at least 30 days in most cases to see the ads, see the full effect of what Kazam can do for you. But if you want to really make sure that your ACOS is optimal out of the gates or most optimal, you want to make sure to provide those seed keywords here and as many as possible that
Hmm.
you can. And so you can turn those on or off here. Like once you've entered those keywords, you can make them active or inactive, whatever you want to do here. You have full control. You can control the bids on those as well. And then you also you can toggle on or off whether you want it to optimize for organic search ranking. So like I mentioned before, by
Hmm.
default, the system is automatically going to reduce bids for those keywords where you start to rank high organically in search. So let's say in the beginning you target a keyword like dog leash and you're ranked on page 3, once you start ranking at the top of page 1, the system's automatically going to start cutting those bids back, so that way you're not paying so much in PPC cost for that keyword. But if you want that feature off, you can turn it off. So you actually have
Cool.
full control. If you're like, hey, you know what? I want to show up twice because I want the multiple placements. I want the repetition for the customer because sometimes
Mhm.
repetition sells as well.
Yep.
Then you can do that.
Yeah, rumor
Um,
has it that it takes 7 to 11 touches for a customer to actually possibly convert.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's why I think it's important to think about those keywords where in the beginning, or especially if you reach a level of scale where if you're already doing a lot of other types of ads, like you're running meta ads, you're doing TikTok, the customer's seeing you in multiple places, it may be helpful to run some ads where you're not, necessarily reducing bids for keywords you're ranking for as well.
Cool.
But branded keywords generally, I feel like branded keywords you may want to pull back a little bit from because, you're already showing up for your own brand, and those are higher
Yeah,
by intent.
you just want to take those positions so that your competitors aren't taking those
Yep,
sales from you.
exactly.
Yeah.
We have a boost keywords feature, so you can actually, if you're like, hey, I'm starting a new product or I'm relaunching a product and I want to really rank well for that product, you can actually you can boost here. So you can basically toggle on this boost feature, and what that's going to do is it's going to ramp up the PPC more quickly, the bids on those, in an effort to help you win the clicks. And ideally increase your sales. As long as your product is relevant and sells well, you should see a boost in rankings for those keywords.
So when I think of boost, I think increasing the dollars or money spent.
Mm-hmm.
Is that essentially what this is, or are you
In a way,
saying that?
yeah, it's increasing the bid because sometimes if your bid's too low, it's kind of like an auction in a way. If your bid's too low, you're
Mhm.
not going to get the clicks because you're
Yeah,
not getting your
no
competition is
placement.
taking the
Yeah,
placement. So
yeah,
you're not getting the ad inventory to get visible for
yep.
those keywords. So this is making sure you're visible. So it's not ramping it up crazy, but it is ramping it up in a way so that you will get visibility. But what it does is that it only does it for like 5 days. So it'll basically run it for 5 days, or until you've reached like top 5 rankings, whichever comes first. Yep. And then so this is where you have a lot more advanced capabilities here. So you can actually control on target bid expansion. I had a customer who was like, "Hey, I would love to change my frequency of optimization." Because a lot of our optimizations are not daily. Some of them are a few times a week. Some of them are weekly. Some of them are, twice a month. Some are monthly.
Hmm.
So if you wanted to have more frequent optimizations, generally like with ads in general, whether it be meta ads or Amazon ads, you don't want to over optimize. You have to be careful not to optimize too frequently, in my opinion. You don't want to overdo it because you have to give the algorithm some time as well to figure out, what you're relevant for and give it some time. But if you
Yeah.
did want it to optimize at a different frequency, either more frequently or less frequently, or add some other types of optimizations, you can do that here. You can basically say, hey, you know what? I want to optimize this daily, and I want to basically target keywords that have low impressions. I want to increase the bid by a certain dollar amount or percentage. Let's say I want to increase it by 20%. You'd put 20% there. You'd put the max bid, let's say max bid $5 or whatever it may be. And then you'd say impressions less than 100 impressions. And that basically means that any keywords that have had less than 100 impressions,
It's a 20% boost.
it's going to get a 20% bid increase on a
Yep.
daily basis. It's going to look at those on a daily basis. And then you can set the look back period. So you can say, okay, let's do this every 7 days. So I want you to look every day. I want you to look back the previous 7 days and tell me any keywords that have less than 100 impressions and make these optimizations to it. So
Cool.
that's what that means. And you can do that differently. You can do 14 days, 30 days. You can do it custom. You can do that however you want. You have full control over that. Um, the same thing here for search term expansion. So you can actually, basically what this will do is it will automatically pull the converting search terms from your other campaigns into a new campaign. So you can do that daily as well if you wanted to. You can say, hey, I want you to look back every day, look back the last 7 days, find the search terms with a return on ad spend between, A and B, between 2 and 3 or whatever it may be.
Hmm.
Or you can have it based on the different search criteria. So you can say minimum order number. So you can say, I want search terms that have at least 5 orders. or that have a certain click-through rate percentage higher than, or a conversion rate percentage higher than, you can put that. You have a toggle feature where you can automatically add those search terms as a negative in the original campaign. Because once the system creates new campaigns, pulling that search term out, I think, in my opinion, it's beneficial to negative match that in your original campaign. So you're not targeting the same search term in multiple campaigns. And then the last few things is you have negative optimization, which is kind of what I just talked about. If you wanted to set some parameters for negative, putting negative matches for keywords. So you could say, I want to do this daily, look back last, let's say 30 days. And you can do this for basically any keywords with a certain amount of clicks without sales. So if they had, let's say 20 clicks and no sales, maybe you want to negative match that. So you're like, you know what, I'm not relevant for that. Let's stop wasting money for that. Or a certain amount of impressions without clicks. Or a certain click-through rate percentage lower than. So if you're not getting a good CTR on that, you can negative that out if you wanted to.
Makes sense. This one's my favorite one, the day parting and seasonality. I'm a big fan of day parting and seasonality. So for those of you that don't know, you can adjust your bid strategy by day, by hour, to boost what is being displayed at what you know to be peak times of conversion rates or peak times of add to carts or something like that. So my question for you, Kusha, is this. Do you have any sort of graph that shows what the average times of add to cart or purchase is?
We don't have that yet. That's something that we do want to release in the future, where we'll have more data on that. In my opinion, I have found that when I, tended to automate the day parting and seasonality as a general feature, it just didn't always pan out the way we thought it would. Like you think logically it would work really well, but I think again, it kind of, I feel like disrupts the Amazon's algorithm for their PPC. So in most cases, I generally recommend not doing that. But if you're a more seasoned seller, you know exactly what you're doing, you know your product, and you're like, hey, this has worked really well for us. We know, or if you just want to test it, if you're like, I know that I'm getting like a lot of sales in the morning, but in the middle of the day, I'm getting a lot of clicks and it's driving up my PPC costs with no sales for some reason. Then you can turn them off. So you have the ability right here to turn ads off at a certain time of day. You can select what days of the week, or all the days of the week if you wanted to, and you can say, okay, what time of the day do you want to do that for? The time zone, it tells you the time zone here is based on PST, West Coast time zone. So you can set that time of day. You can even set ads to turn off during certain times of the year if you wanted to. You could have the budget change at certain times of year. So you can say, you know what, Q4, I need to ramp budget up hard, and I don't want to have to think about it or remember to do this. So I'm going to set this now. So for Q4, starting 10/1 through December 31st, I'm going to increase my daily budget by 20% or a certain dollar amount.
Yeah, cool.
So this is to make sure you don't run out of budget. This is more about budget, not bids, but yeah, this is to make sure you have enough budget, because you are going to have more competition and also more traffic. So you're going to need a bigger budget in Q4 in general. Or if you're in like health and wellness, maybe Q1, something like that, something to think about.
Yep. And so what are some of the biggest challenges that Amazon sellers face, and how does Kazam address these?
Yeah, I would say the biggest challenges, for Amazon sellers is, number one, basically running ads, either on their own or being able to afford to pay somebody. If you're running it on your own, that's taking you away from your business. So, that's what I was doing for a long time, and I found that in order to scale, you have to delegate. That's the biggest thing. There's a lot of books, obviously, like E-Myth and different things like that talk about this topic. That in order to grow your business, you have to work above your business. You can't work in your business. But in order to do that, sometimes it's not feasible because you have to go in steps. Like, sure, if you had a business that went from, let's say, 0 to like 500K in revenue, generally that's, not going to be enough revenue to, hire a ton of people, maybe some VAs, because your margins are going to be enough to maybe cover your own. If you're, let's say you're living on that income, to cover your own expenses and hire somebody, it's going to be very slim. It's going to be hard to do that. But even when you go from, let's say, 500K, most businesses don't go from 500K revenue to 10 million revenue. They go in increments. They go to 500K to a million, to 2 million, to 5 million, and so forth. So at each tier, you're going to want to hire accordingly. And so Kazam is really designed, to help these sellers so that as they scale, they have this affordable solution that doesn't require a $5,000 a month media buyer. Um, one thing I forgot to share here, let me show you real quick. Let me go back here. One thing that's cool that we added this new feature, if you look at this little chat bubble on the right, you can open this up,
Mm-hmm.
and this is your own AI assistant. And so it tells you here, basically it says, hi, I'm your AI assistant. You can ask me virtually anything about your current campaigns, and it can also execute tasks related to the items below. So there's all these different kinds of widgets that it can execute tasks for, like pausing campaigns, enabling campaigns. You can add negative keywords to a campaign, update budgets, and so forth. You can even
So
ask it how certain campaigns are doing, how certain products are doing.
so if I ask, let's say I've got 10 campaigns,
Hmm.
do I just ask, hey, what about this campaign and this product? I just tell the AI, I want to know about this campaign, this product,
Or give
and
it
get
the
the data
ASIN
on
or
it.
the SKU, say, hey, I'm curious, how
Okay,
is
yep.
this SKU performing? And it'll tell you. I mean,
Hmm.
you can see how the SKU is performing just looking at your advertised SKUs. If you go to advertised SKUs, it's going to show you here.
Hmm.
It'll show you, let me go to quick launch. You'll be able to see, you'll see all the stats over time here, just like your Amazon advertising dashboard. It's going to show you all the metrics over time here. And you can set the
Cool.
date ranges and such. But yeah, it'll show you all of that. And you can search for campaigns. So every campaign has your ASIN in it. So if you just wanted to see a specific ASIN, you just search for that ASIN, and it'll filter and show just that ASIN. The naming conventions of every campaign will have ASIN in it.
And what
So
about title,
what's
product
that?
title? Will so I can search by ASINs. Can I also search by product title?
I don't believe so. I haven't tried that, to be honest. I try to be as specific with the AI as possible. So I'll give it things like because you want to make sure, if you want to get the most accurate information, you want to give it, I would say, the most definitive inputs. So ASIN
Yeah.
or SKU would be more definitive, or even you could copy and paste the campaign name, and you can say, okay, you know what, you can copy this campaign, paste it in the chat, ask it about that if you wanted to. But even just giving it the SKU or ASIN would get results too. But yeah, if you wanted to know more specifically about a specific campaign, then you could ask it about that as well. But
Okay.
yeah, generally product title might be a little bit too broad for it to really, match it properly.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, this is a cool tool. I like this because it's like a media buyer. I mean, a media buyer, what do? You say, hey, how are my campaigns doing? And
Right.
hey, can you make these changes to my campaigns? That's what a VA would do. That's what a media buyer would do. And they're going to charge you, several $1,000s a month to do that. Whereas this is going to charge you $200 a month. And
Yeah.
so I just haven't seen myself personally in the marketplace. I haven't seen anything else out there that's month to month, easy to use and very simple, hands off. You don't have to, manage it and run it every single day. You can check in on this a few times a week if you wanted to. You could look at it every day if you wanted to. You could look at it
Hmm.
once a week or once a month if you wanted to. It's going to run it for you based on those parameters.
Cool.
Uh,
Would I be able to ask it, hey, how many keywords do I have that are operating below X threshold?
yeah, you can. You can ask it, specifics about keywords. Again, I would try to give it information about the SKU or the ASIN
Specific. Yeah.
first. Yeah, try to
Sure.
find
Sure.
out
Sure.
so it can dig deeper into those specific SKUs or ASINs or campaigns. But yeah, you can see how they're performing, and it can execute. Again, it could execute tasks based on that.
Yeah. Cool. So I could say in this campaign for this ASIN, how many keywords do I have that are operating below X? Cool. Get that list, get that answer. Awesome. Negative match those.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
That's pretty handy. Yeah, that is like having a meeting with
Hmm.
your PPC manager and
Yep.
say, "All right, let's do this, let's do that." That's really really cool. So
Yeah.
and I'm not aware of any feature out there like that either. Again, I'm not an ads guy. I probably should have had my partner who does all our ads management come in here because he's used nearly every software out there for ads management and have him ask some questions. But yeah, this is great. So, Kusha, thank you for showing that to us. I've just got couple of final parting questions. Number one, what sort of enhancements can we look forward to coming from or to Kazam? What are you guys working on that you're going to be implementing? Call it Q1, Q2.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to be very nimble. When I first created Kazam, I had a long list of all the different types of features I wanted to integrate, but I wanted to create this
Mhm.
minimum viable product that made the most sense. Because I feel
Mhm.
like sometimes you get into something, even like Helium 10 in many instances feels in my opinion, a little too crowded with features. There's
Agreed.
like it does so much that it can be, especially if
Yep.
you're a new seller and you don't know all the things like how to use all these things, it can be
Yep.
overwhelming. I wanted it to
Yep.
be very easy so to where you don't get lost in the weeds and you're like, okay, I can go here, click a few buttons, and then have Kazam just go and start creating all my campaigns for me. So
Yeah.
that's why I designed it that way. But I do have a list of a lot of other features and ideas I have of things to integrate, especially things related to the semantic SEO and how to
Mm-hmm.
play into that more.
Mm-hmm.
Also, just other themes. Like I showed you the quick launch theme, which is the core function, the core feature of
Yep.
the software. The migrated campaigns theme to migrate your campaigns, but I have other ideas for other themes, like running different types of defensive campaigns or offensive campaigns, to sponsor display, sponsor brands. Currently, Kazam is only focused on sponsored products, is PPC, but in the future we might test things with, with doing more sponsored display and sponsored brand video ads, things like that. Maybe even having the AI do some generative, creation of the content
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah, cool. I would love to also see a profitability quick start. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
have this product and I'm interested in profitability, so I don't want to go above this amount. I know technically you could do that in the quick start,
Yeah.
but you know, there's in my mind there's basically three types of campaigns. There's launch, there's maintain, and there's optimize for profitability.
Yep, exactly. And that's why we do everything at the SKU level. So the quick launch technically can do a lot of those things just by basically going into the specific SKU that you want to, make those changes for. So let's say you have a SKU,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, I need to get this SKU is in launch mode. So I'm going to set the ACoS very high for this one because I don't even care if I break even, especially if
Mm-hmm.
you have a product where people repurchase it. If it's like a consumable or something like that, they
Yeah.
buy it again and again, then
Yep.
that it makes sense to break even or maybe even lose money on that first purchase because now you've got
Yeah.
them, you've acquired that
Yeah.
customer now, and you're not
Yeah.
paying for the PPC next time, hopefully, especially as you rank higher
Hopefully.
again. Well, again, with this feature, you shouldn't because as you rank higher and you become more relevant, then you don't need to pay for that PPC for that keyword for that
Sure.
customer. But generally, yeah, those things can be tweaked from that perspective, from a launch perspective. But even profitability, like you were mentioning, for if you have a different SKU and you're like, hey, this is in profitability mode, it's a season SKU. I want to make sure that we stay at a target profitability. You just have to set that ACoS. What's the max you can afford to acquire a customer and still be profitable? Or what's the max you want to spend so that you
Yep.
maintain a certain level of profitability? So maybe it's you only want 10% ACoS, so you have max profitability. You can set that parameter in there.
Yep. Yep. Makes sense. Okay, awesome. And then for anyone that's interested in getting started, it's gokazam.com,
Yep.
GOKAZAM.com.
Yep.
Is there, I know we didn't actually discuss this ahead of time, but is there some sort of coupon code that they can use from if they, so that you know that they learned about this from this show?
What we can do for anyone who's listening, if they sign up and for the 7-day trial and just
Mm-hmm.
email me at info at gokazam.com and just let me know they signed up and what email they signed up with, and we'll extend their trial for another 7 days. So they'll get double the trial. They can
Okay.
try it for 2 weeks, 14-day trial, and then you can get a good sense of how it works. And of course, during that trial, if they have questions at all, if they get stuck or need any kind of help at all, then we have pretty good hands-on support. You can email us anytime, and we're happy to help.
Cool. All right, sweet. So you're going to double the trial. And so if anyone mentions to Kusha that you heard this on the Ecom Growth Show or from myself, Danon, he'll double that trial for you. Awesome. Well, Kusha, thank you very much. I appreciate the words of wisdom, and also thank you for building a simple, on behalf of all new sellers. Thanks for building a simple and easy to start PPC management system.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, gals. Thank you for listening and tuning in. And I'll see you on the next one.